Have you ever looked at a number that was just, well, a little too much? You know, one with a super long tail of digits after the decimal point that just makes it kind of clumsy. Well, in the real world, we need things to be simpler, more practical. And that, my friends, is where rounding comes in. So today, we're going to master it. So let's put ourselves in a real-world spot. Imagine you're a tinga. You've got this piece of wire mesh, and you measure it. It's exactly 13.949 meters long. Now, if your buddy asks you how long it is, are you really going to say 13.949 meters? No way. You'd say something a lot simpler, right? And that's exactly why we need to get good at rounding decimals.
So here's the game plan for this explainer. We'll start with why we even bother rounding, then we'll cover the one golden rule you need to know. We'll put it into action, tackle that tricky 9 problem, clear up a common mix-up, and then wrap it all up with your final rounding toolkit.
So seriously, why do we do this? Well, it's all about going from super exact to super practical. Rounding just makes numbers easier to talk about, easier to remember, and way easier to work with. Think about it. Measuring stuff for a project, figuring out a bill, it's all about finding that sweet spot between being precise and just being practical. You know, all of decimal rounding really just comes down to one simple, powerful idea. I like to call it the golden rule. Once you get this one thing, everything else is going to be a piece of cake. So let's check it out. Okay, here it is. 4 simple steps. First, you find the decimal place you want to round to. That's your target. Then, you just peek at the number right next to it, on the right. That little guy is your decider digit. Now, if that decider is 5 or more, you bump your target digit up by 1. But if it's 4 or less, you just leave your target digit alone. That's it. Seriously, that's the whole rule.
All right, theory's cool and all, but practice is where it really sticks. So let's take that golden rule and put it to work with a couple of examples.
Okay, first step, 34.126. The mission is to round it to 2 decimal places. So our target is that second digit after the decimal, which is the 2. Now we look at our decider, the number right next door, which is the 6. Time for the big question, based on our golden rule. Is that decider digit, the 6, 5 or more? Yep, it absolutely is. So what does our rule tell us to do? We round up. Because 6 is bigger than 5, we give our target digit, the 2, a little nudge up to a 3. And just like that, 34.126, rounded to 2 decimal places, becomes 34.13. See? Not so bad.
Let's do another one. This time we've got 86.90847, and we're rounding to 3 decimal places. So our target is the third digit, the 8. And our decider right next to it, that's the 4.
Let's ask our question again. Is our decider the 4, 5, or more? Nope, this time it's not. It's in that 4 or less camp. And this shows us the other side of the coin. Since 4 is less than 5, our target digit gets to just stay put. The 8 remains an 8, and we just chop off the rest of the numbers. Our answer is 86.908. Okay, so you've got the basics down cold. But what happens when the digit you need to round up is a 9? This is where things get a little interesting. It's a super common situation, though, so let's just jump right in and tackle it. Here we go. The challenge, 131.96022, rounded to 1 decimal place. Okay, so our target is the 9. The decider next to it is a 6. Our rule says we have to round up. But how do you round up a 9? You can't just make it a 10, right? Exactly. You can't just squeeze a 10 into a single spot. What happens is more like a chain reaction. The 9 turns into a 0, and then you have to carry the 1 over to the digit on its left. It's just like when you're doing addition. So for our number, that 9 in the tens place becomes a 0, and we carry that 1 over to the ones place, which turns the 1 into a 2. So our final answer is 132.0. And hey, pay attention to this part. We keep the 0 because it tells everyone we specifically rounded to 1 decimal place. That's a key detail. Before we wrap this up, I want to make one really quick but really important clarification. You might hear people talk about rounding to significant figures instead of decimal places. I just want you to know they are not the same thing, and this trips a lot of people up. Let's look at this number, 0.0236. If we round it to 2 decimal places, like we've been doing all day, we get 0.02. But if the instructions were to round to 2 significant figures, the answer is actually 0.024.
It's a whole different process, but it's just good to know that it exists. For now, let's stick with what we know. Decimal places. Wow, we have covered a ton of ground, huh? From the absolute basics all the way to that tricky 9 problem. So let's boil it all down into a simple final toolkit you can use anytime you need it.
It really just comes down to this. 1. Find your target. 2. Look right next door for the decider. 3. Make the call. 5 or more, you go up. 4 or less, it stays the same. And 4. Just remember that tricky 9 means you have to carry the 1. That's your whole toolkit right there.
So let's bring it full circle, back to our first problem. Remember a sting is 13.949 meter wire? If we want to make that more practical and round it to 1 decimal place, our target is the 9. The decider is the 4. Since 4 is less than 5, the 9 stays put. We can just call it 13.9 meters. It's practical, easy to say, and you know what? It's precise enough.
And that really leaves us with one final thought. We're surrounded by all this super precise data all the time. But to actually communicate, we often need simplicity. So the real skill isn't just knowing how to round, but when to round. When is that exact precision totally necessary, and when is close enough actually good enough? That, right there, is the art of using numbers in the real world.